Hey everyone, I'm going to talk to you about how your errors that you're making in the language you're trying to learn are helping you learn. Okay, so first off, what is an error? What is that? So an error happens when you do not accurately produce some grammatical or lexical, so some grammatical structure or some word isn't formulated, the correct, accurate way, okay, according to grammar and rules, okay, prescriptive rules. Um, and that happens. You do that, you produce inaccurate language even after you have learned the rule, okay? So that is an error. You know the rule, you know how to do it, but yet you still produce that error, okay? Now, that is different from a mistake. A mistake is something that happens on accident. You know the rule, you are able to produce that form accurately all the time, and one day you just messed up, you pronounced the word the wrong way, or you spelled it wrong the wrong way, or you forgot ing. Okay, those are mistakes. Those are not a big deal, but errors, they can give you a lot of information. I can get a lot of information as a teacher about my students' language abilities from the errors that they make. Okay, so how? So a lot of what I just said comes from this error analysis idea from Corder from the 1960s. But then other linguists have been adding to that research and that idea. And in 1974, there's another addition to error analysis, and that is that we shouldn't we should be using this error analysis to guide us, as I said earlier, and that we should use error analysis to tell us where students are in their learning journey and what's going on. Whereas before, a lot of times when students would make errors with the language, people would just, well, linguists would just attribute, right? They would connect the error to the fact that the student was learning a language that was different from their first. And it's called contrastive analysis. So they would look at the target language, maybe English, and they would look at the student's first language, let's say maybe German. If you contrast those two languages, they're kind of similar actually in syntax and in the use of prepositions, and they use certain things. They use the same alphabet, but you could contrast English to Japanese and you would see a huge amount of differences. So there's this idea that the more contrasted the new language is that you're trying to learn from your first language, the more contrasted, the more different they are, the more errors you're going to produce. And maybe that's true, but in fact, these later researchers who've added to this idea of error analysis said no, there's such a thing as a built-in syllabus, a built-in process in which people follow when they're learning a language. It's not so much connected to what their first language is, and that process involves errors that you will make and you must make, okay? And when we as teachers or researchers, when we see these errors, we are able to understand the process and where you're at, okay? So let me give you an example. So here on the board, I have some words written down. They're related to questions. So question formation, specifically WH question formation: who, what, when, where, why, how, right? Those information questions require, just like other questions, but they require sometimes, not always, the use of the auxiliary verb. And so do negatives, okay? So negative sentences and questions are especially complicated in English because they require what's called inversion or do support or an auxiliary verb to create the meaning that they are trying to create. Okay, so when someone makes a mistake with a question or with a negative form, we can kind of see where they're at. So here we have a question, who are you? And that's an explicit question. Who are you? I want to know that, right? But here, I want to know who you are. That's actually an embedded question. So it's not an explicit question, it's embedded inside of a sentence. And when people are learning the language, they don't really have the ability sometimes to recognize the difference between those or to produce them accurately. So when they start to produce questions, they might say who, you. Who is the important word, and then you. That's another important word. And I think a lot of people can understand who you. They're asking, who are you, right? And so they're missing that verb are, right? Later, they might go or around similar example, why you go. Again, question word, they have a subject, they have a verb, but these subject and verb actually have to be inverted, and there needs to be an auxiliary verb later on. But when someone says why you go, to me that means I can see very clearly where they're at. Okay, then later as they progress and get more advanced, they keep you and go, but they add do support or an auxiliary verb here, which is and it agrees with the subject grammatically. So we have a verb, and then we have the subject, and then we have the base form of the verb. Okay, so this is a correct way to formulate this question, but when people produce these types of errors, we're able to see where they're at and guide them and say, hey, it looks like you're working on this and you need help with that. So let me explain this inversion to you, and let me give you opportunities to practice that. And it's helpful. Okay. You can't skip this, by the way. You cannot learn the rule and immediately magically start producing it correctly. That doesn't happen. There is a built-in process, a built-in syllabus wherein you follow these steps. Okay? All right. And then, of course, down here you can see, I want to know why you go. Okay? Why do you go? I want to know why you go. This is an embedded question. And when students are able to get to this point where they can create embedded questions that actually don't have the subject and verb inverted, because embedded questions do not have that, that's even more information for them and for the teacher that this learner is pretty advanced. They're able to create an embedded question, and they're able to do it with the subject and verb in the correct order, because it's not technically a question. Whereas if it's a question, you need the inverted order. Over here, we have the same type of situation with negatives. Someone who's learning to make negatives, they might start by saying no, right? No go. I no go, right? Or he don't go. I don't go. She don't go. Okay, so first they start with no before the verb, and then they understand, okay, I need to add do. So I'm just going to make it don't. Don't for everything. Not doesn't, but don't for he, for they, for everyone. Okay, and then maybe they can experiment with more types of supporting helping verbs like can't go, won't go. These ones don't have to agree with the verb, so they're always right. I can't go, I shouldn't go, I won't go, he won't go, he shouldn't go. They're always correct. So this is like a good place to be, and it's easier than this. So here, she doesn't go, she doesn't go. So that's going from up here to now a correct, accurate utterance of this negative form. Subject, she, does, so do support auxiliary verb, agreeing with the subject accurately, negative after that verb, and then the base form of the following verb. So you can see the progression, and that takes years. That takes a long time. So it's helpful to learn from our errors there. Now, this takes me to the next part, which is to talk about how to give feedback to um, a learner who's learning a new language, right? So and how to help them improve their accuracy with the language. So a lot of different ways to teach the language and to specifically teach rules like grammar rules have been, discussed. You can explicitly focus on form before a student makes an error. You could focus on the form and focus on a grammatical structure after a student makes an error and revise and focus on how to fix it. There's all different ways. I think, there's pros and cons to different ways. Um, but when it comes to for writing, for me, when I teach a lot of writing classes, when a student makes an error with writing, it's so important for me to be able to point that out to them. They probably notice it, maybe not, but if I can point that error out to them and I can show them, hey, this has been repeated a few times. You don't have like 10 different errors. You really only have 3, and you keep repeating the same one many times. That's the one I want them to focus on. Okay. And I could tell them, hey, this is an error with conditionals. You need to revise conditionals. Come see me, go see a tutor, review this YouTube video, review this in a grammar book, because I can see you're repeating and it's a frequent error that you're making. Okay, so for me as a teacher, that's how I point it out in writing, and I give a lot of resources. For a speaking situation, there are different ways in which we can provide negative feedback, it's called, to someone who's learning the language. And I think for you, as someone who's learning the language, it will help you to understand what teachers do and why they're not explicitly correcting your error. Okay, because it's not that actually that helpful. But here we go. So the first one is if you say something that's incorrect grammatically, okay, inaccurate, like I no go. So what happens is a person or a teacher might create a recast. A recast is where they essentially just repeat what you've said um, with the correct form, with the accurate form. Okay. So they do it without the error. So you say, yeah, I know, go tomorrow. Oh, you're not going tomorrow? Okay. So they just kind of like recast it as if they understood, and they're telling it to you. That actually is a really great way for you to learn. Okay. And it has been proven as a very effective method. Okay. But there's no judgment. There's no explicit, hey, that was wrong and this is how you do it. No, you just say, oh, you're not going. You're not going to go. And then that you say, oh, yeah, I'm not going to go, not I know go. All right. Another way in which we can provide negative feedback to help learners when they produce an error is by providing them with the opportunity of negotiation of form. Negotiation of form means we're negotiating the form, the error. We are negotiating. That means we are going back and forth to figure out the meaning of what you're trying to say. Well, really, to help you say it accurately. So, for example, we might ask for clarification and say, did you mean you are going to the party tomorrow? So we might ask a clarification question as a way to negotiate, and then you respond, yeah, that's what I said. I'm going to go. Okay. We might repeat the error and just say, go, I know, go, like with rising intonation. And that's a way for the learner to hear, oh, I made a mistake. Yeah, no, I am going. And that's negotiation. Another way is to just straight up elicit the form and say, well, okay, how would you say that in your language? I know, go. How do you say that in your language? So when you elicit it, it might help them to think about it in a different way, and even in the target language. And then finally, you could use grammar tools and meta-linguistic tools that they've been learning to help them. Like, oh, wait a minute, when you use a negative in English, don't you have to use a helping verb or an auxiliary verb? That, oh yeah, I have to use do, right? I do not go. Or I can use a different helping verb like will, I will not go. Okay, so this type of meta-linguistic feedback, which I think comes from teachers mostly, can be super helpful. Okay, and again, you're going to make errors. Your errors will help you. Okay, and then the last type of way we can provide negative feedback is explicit correction. That just means saying, no, that's wrong, it's like this, and correcting. And that honestly like lowers the affective filter, makes people feel uncomfortable, makes them feel, a lot of people say they want that, but what they really mean is they want to recast. Or they might want to negotiate form. It takes a long time, but it's a really great way for it to stick. So don't be afraid of your errors. They are an indication of where you are in terms of learning the language. Everyone goes through a process to get to their goal of being more advanced, and learning from your errors is part of that process. So use it to your advantage. Bye.